Yeah, we just started. All right. So, what the hell's up with COVID and how it's spreading around the world and it's affecting different people? Welcome to Ask Me, I'm a Scientist. I'm Susanna Harris. I'm your question jockey. Feel free to drop questions in the little comment box while you're at it. Like, subscribe, make sure that this can keep growing and we can get more awesome guests. This show is unscripted, uncut, and very likely unprofessional. And we just talk about whatever you're interested in the news right now. Right now, of course, this week is pretty much dedicated to the coronavirus, COVID-19, and I'm bringing on a bunch of really amazing people from literally around the world to give their advice to you of just what's going on. So I'm super excited to be talking with Dr. Augusto César, who is an assistant professor in the Department of the Epidemiology School of Public Health at the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil, actually. So I'm up here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Thank you so much, Augusto, for being here. Why don't you give a basic introduction to who you are and just what is epidemiology?
Thank you, Susanna, for having me. It's a pleasure to talk with you, with the audience. And I'm Brazilian. I'm from south of Brazil. And I work on epidemiology 7 years. So I work on non-communicable disease knowledge methods. It's a field of science. How can you understand why the persons get sick and how the persons get sick? So what is the risk? One disease can be coronavirus or obesity, for example, and why the person don't have sick and why the persons get health behaviors and why the person get unhealthy behaviors.
Great.
So this is the mainly go on the epidemiology.
That's so cool. So it sounds like it's behavioral. It's stuff that's already kind of inside of us, like our genetics. That seems super complex. And you said this is an entire field of science?
Yeah. Right. On nowadays, is epidemiology can build the translational medicine.
Translational,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, translational. Thank you. Sorry for my bad English.
No, your English is great. I do have to cut you off. Your English is fantastic. When I mixed up your name because actually I've got somebody else, I think tomorrow or pretty soon, who's César, and it's just confusing, but you're fantastic. And I'm so incredibly impressed. I know this is totally off topic, but I'm so incredibly impressed when people can do work in 2 languages. I think that's something that just doesn't really happen in the US very much.
Yeah. And so as I said, because right now epigenetics, so we have this translational epigenetics, and we can build science, the genetic factors from cancer, for example, into the environmental or social epidemiology.
Okay.
Why the persons living in São Paulo have more probability to get sick, so the person living in your city, for example. So this is more social epidemiology. And or you can see, for example, why the Mexico indigenous people have more diabetes because of the ethnicity by genetic factors.
So that kind of
in epidemiology.
Go ahead.
In epidemiology is for me interesting because you can see all the phases, all the steps of the disease. So the genetics, behaviors, social, environmental, and mortality. So this is interesting from my opinion.
Yeah, that spans so much stuff. Luckily, and the reason we're talking today, right, is that this all relates to COVID-19. And what's so interesting is that I normally think of diseases really affecting, it usually looks like very young kids and older adults, but there's something like, I don't know, under 1,000 kids that have really gotten sick from all this in terms of critical condition. How does epidemiology have to do with the coronavirus outbreak?
So coronavirus is one flu, harder than seasonal flu. So because almost 20% of the person get infection from coronavirus is necessary to go to the hospital for the treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And my opinion is the epidemiology. No, our epidemiologists have to surveillance of this infection, why the person gets infected, and how the person gets infected. So we know the persons have older, so more than 16 years old, is the probability to get sick is higher and to develop the chronic condition of this infection is higher because the older people have more probability to develop the critical conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And on the epidemiology is interesting to understand, for example, and why this happens in China,
Mm-hmm.
why what's happened right now in Italy. So
Mm-hmm.
they closed the country. Is necessary? Yes, it is. It's because this virus is pretty easy to get infected.
Yeah.
And so if you have one person infected by coronavirus, this person can infect two or three people
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
around 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 the person lives. So,
Huh.
and if you will see, for example, the Italy epidemiology of the coronavirus is very interesting because in 10 days they growing up from 200 to 400,
Mm-hmm.
800, 1400.
Mm-hmm.
So, and right now I have to close the borders
Mm-hmm.
to stop that. So,
Yeah,
you see,
it's really
as
scary
you see, for
stuff.
example,
I think.
yeah, it's scary, but I think is not so scary as we see on the news.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this sensationalism on the coronavirus
Mm-hmm.
is pretty higher.
Okay.
So as I said, the previous said is a flu,
Mm-hmm.
harder than seasonal flu,
Yeah.
but it is a flu. So if you see for mortality rate of coronavirus is 2%.
Okay.
So on the younger people like you and like me is lower than 1%.
Right.
So
So,
for
on that topic, there's so I'm pulling up now some questions. I've got my phone in front of me, and these are questions that people have sent in on my Instagram. If you want to send in more questions in the future, my handle is right there. Otherwise, you can drop stuff in our live chat, which is I'm seeing a bunch of stuff up. This is super cool. And someone, Louis G, just agreed with you, Augusto, that the media are making a lot of business with this. And I myself, as a microbiologist, am kind of split where I think the issue is the media is sensationalizing it rather than giving out really active advice of what people can be doing. It's all this incredibly speculative stuff that it kind of pushes people towards a frenzy. Um, you just said that the two of us are likely to be okay. What can we do, though, to protect the people around us? Because it sounds like other people are going to be a lot more susceptible or likely to get this disease.
yeah, for example, if you have a friend, for example, or you
Mm-hmm.
you go to the Italy last month, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know if you have coronavirus because the first feeling you said is like a flu.
Mm-hmm.
So important you see not see your parents, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or okay, I stay at home for 3 or 4 days. If you have the probability to go to make a test, if you have just normal flu or coronavirus,
Mm-hmm.
is if you have these feelings,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I have fever, I have pain of my chest, and I don't feel
Mm-hmm.
well, right? So stay at home for 3 or 4 days, and if you continue of that, so go to the hospital, make a test. And my suggestion, not see older
Mm-hmm.
people, if your parents or your advisor
Mm-hmm.
or younger children,
Mm-hmm.
younger than 2 years old.
Yeah.
So this is my suggestion for you,
Right.
for example.
No, I mean that's fantastic,
This
and that's what the universities are telling us here. So I have a couple questions here. Let's see. Uh, I think that this is a really interesting question from I'm going to have a really fun time saying these handles. An Instagram question up in my stories was, "Donde están los burritos?" But this person said, I know, I just butchered that.
I'm not Mexican, Brazilian.
So they said, "Thanks for doing this. What I want to know is whether schools should be postponing commencements next month, and whether the summer may bring some solace in terms of the virus spreading." What are your opinions on this?
So here in Brazil, we don't have a break. So and the first time I saw break on, I can make a parallel, right? So here in Brazil in 2009, you have the flu H1N1. And I was a sample. This is a curiosity. I was a sample site to the vaccine of this flu, and we stopped it for 10, 15 days, if I remember right. And what happened here in Brazil in this flu is the vacation was shorter. So we have in Brazil for because it is the opposite, right? Right now you are in winter. Here in Brazil we are in summer. So in our inter vacation, you have it 2 or 3 weeks. In that time, just have 1 week. So it is what it is. If they have to short the vacation 1 week or 2 weeks, it is what it is. So I know for the students it's pretty sad, but is what the university have to do to finish the course or to finish the academic year.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, it's a good lesson to all of us. And I personally, because this is like unscripted and somewhat unprofessional, I can say it here, but I've been really disappointed in a lot of microbiologists. I have been really disappointed in a lot of healthcare workers who are preaching one thing and then doing something totally different. People will say, you need to stay inside, you need to take care of yourself, you need to be washing your hands. And those same people are then saying, well, my experiments are more important. And, I just, talking about the spread of disease, could you explain a little bit about what it means that we've got a question here from Timothy York. What does it mean that the shedding rate of coronavirus is high? And what does that have to do with the spreading of it?
The coronavirus is higher than flu. It's because we don't know it's a coronavirus. And we don't know if you have the infection because it's look like flu, normal flu. And the United States have a different problem here in Brazil because in Brazil we have the public health system. So, as I don't know if you saw here in Brazil, the Professor Sabino from the medical school, he described all the genome of the coronavirus in 48 hours. Yeah. So in China, if you compare in China, they did the same job in 15 days. And I think this suggestion from the United States is pretty good because I don't know the price, but when you go in the United States, when you have to make some tests in the hospital, you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So if you don't have money, if you can infect by coronavirus, but you don't know, and you go to for example, Starbucks, or you go for your job, you continue infecting other people. So, and wash your hands, make with alcohol is good for to do that. So, but this is one problem with the United States right now.
Yeah. Well, it's horrible.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if to close the university is good if you don't have any infection on the city.
That is.
But if you have, for example, in Columbia University, I have one former student of mine. She was there make the master degree, and she said to me yesterday they closed the Columbia. I think it's good because New York have a lot of flights from Italy or from China, so you don't know. So you can see you don't know have infected. So it is good for to establish a border.
And is it true that this stuff can be spread even if somebody's not showing symptoms?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's for example, if you get infection, and as I read, the virus makes some symptoms for 2 or 3 days later than you get infected. Oh, pretty dog behind you.
Yeah, I think that's called the incubation period, right? Where you're kind of housing the virus, but you're not actually showing it very much to other people.
Yeah.
So I have a great question from Kelsey Knoll. And it's not even a question, it's just in all caps, host genetic factors. And so, as far as I know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, host genetic factors are those things that you're talking about with like cancer, where the BRCA gene can make you more susceptible, certain variants of that. Even things like if you have underlying asthma or something that's more genetically based. When will we be able to even find out if there are host genetic factors related to coronavirus?
We don't have some information about that, but again, when we compare another flus, for example, H1N1 or SARS or MERS, for example, have the same outbreak, harder than this one, but the same outbreak. We don't have the person's genetic predisposition to get infected. Okay. This is one bad thing from virus. They can infect anyone.
Yeah.
The question is the person's have one special condition, as you said, asthma. Mm-hmm. This is hard for these people. Mm-hmm. Or have one GOPC, for example. This is harder because they get infected on the lung. And because of this condition, the symptoms is harder and they're going to die probably because of infection of the virus.
Yeah, yeah.
But we don't have any kind of genetic predisposition on this infection.
Yeah, I mean, what's so interesting with this virus is that the spread of fatality or mortality rates are all over the place, right? Where you're looking at least the first few months was showing for people over the age of 80, it was like 16%, whereas younger people was under 0.2%. Is that just coming from the fact that different people have different health?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is. So when you compare, for example, one person's elderly people, right? Yeah. Over than 65 years old. Okay. 70% here, I talking data with Brazil, but I think it's the same in the United States. 60-70%, these people have one chronic condition, hypertension or obese or diabetes or another respiratory disease. So they have one chronic disease, right? Uh-huh. And because of this chronic disease, they have immune system not so good like us. They don't have this chronic disease. Uh-huh. And when you have one special condition, when you get infected for any kind of disease or virus or bacteria or whatever, so you have different organisms for your immune system, and it's hard to fight against another rival.
Right.
So is this because the other people get higher rate to mortality when we compare for young adults or adolescents or children?
Yeah.
So this is the main cause.
That's so interesting. And it just seems like over the next few months, we're going to be learning so much about this. And I'll let our viewers know if you want to know more details about the virus itself, how it kind of interacts with cells. The talk I did with Dr. Elizabeth Dellery yesterday, I think was really cool. She talked a lot about the viruses. Going to have a few talks coming up with virologists, understanding those mechanisms. But this is a really good question, and I really appreciated what you were saying about the age and about those kind of pre-existing conditions, because I've got a lot of people saying, what is my likelihood? And I guess that's a really hard question to answer. I've got some people saying I'm 23, I live in this area. Is there any way for people to try to predict their likelihood of getting something? And does that really even matter? Should we be trying to predict this?
Yeah, I can say with from China probability. Okay. Because I don't know, we don't have any kind of paper published with United States data from coronavirus. If you have, for example, and younger than 10 years old, you have 1% to get infected or get some hard symptoms to get the hospitality for the coronavirus. If you are a teenager, you have 1.5%. Young adults from 20 to 29 years old is 8%. And from 30 years to 70 years old is higher,
Okay.
is 70%.
Mm-hmm.
And you have older than 80 years old, you have 3%
Mm-hmm.
of the probability.
Mm-hmm.
And the mortality rate is on the elderly people, 80% is the mortality rate for people older than 70 years old.
Yeah, so that
And
18%. I mean, that's 18% is almost 1 in 5. That's and we still
yeah,
don't.
yeah,
I think the other thing that isn't being talked about as much, but I saw this is that a lot of the cases we have not been resolved, and so. Yeah, we haven't tested a lot of cases. There's probably a lot out there that we're not seeing right now just because we haven't tested enough. But there's also a lot of people who are going to be in the hospital for a few weeks. Um, I guess as an
yeah.
epidemiologist, what are your concerns about all of this stuff?
The My concern is I I look the bright side
Okay.
because if you test, for example, 1,000 persons for coronavirus, probably you in the same society you have more infected persons than the persons get the
Sure.
test. The main reasons is because they don't have the symptoms, because I talk about the United States, right? Because the person don't have money to make the
Yeah.
test. So if you have one society, you have 2,000 positive tests,
Yeah.
probably you have more 5 times than this.
Hmm.
So if you divide for 10,000, the mortality rate or the mortality or the prevalence of the infection is lower than that.
Hmm.
Look the bright side.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my concern with the United States is the health system in the United States.
Hmm.
So I don't have money to go to make the test, but I don't know if I get infected,
Hmm.
and I continue working.
Hmm.
I continue go to the sports events, and I have large probability to infect more people.
Hmm. Hmm. So,
So this is the one concern we have on United States, and but we don't have just have the alarm as the sensationalism the media doing about that is when you see the infection inside the country, right?
mm-hmm.
When you see the virus inside the United States, if you make the test, you see no difference on the gene of the virus. Is one reason. Okay, the persons get infected inside the United States. We don't have more person going outside the United States infect the person inside. This one, when this happens, is alarm.
Yeah.
So
No, it's
we don't see this here in Brazil, but the results come from United States. Probably this starts to happen in the United States today, but it's not so alarm. So we
okay.
just it's normal because all the infection increase one season and have a decrease 1 month or 1.5 months.
Sure.
And you, as I said, is respiratory infection.
Hmm.
And you, United States, are in winter. So what's the human doing in winter?
Mm.
Stay in the buildings.
Hmm.
Don't go outside, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Probably when you get the springtime, this infection decrease.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's make it happen with flu.
Yeah, I think that, a lot of us are trying to kind of, at least I am, I'm kind of trying to predict the future. And it's actually been very calming to start talking with experts because I think going back to that comment about the news sensationalizing things, the more I talk to experts, the more they're saying, yeah, it's bad. We should take it very seriously, but we should also look at the facts and not get so panicked. I've got an interesting
Yeah.
question here in the chat from Colby Helton, basically saying that they're interested in understanding how different kind of treatments might be used for this. When would things get put on the market? Are we trying different things? I know this might be out of your area of expertise, but one of the questions they're asking is kind of this alternative medicine, like Chinese herbal medicine, excuse me. When these things happen, how do we actually rectify all of the causes and start putting treatments out there?
So I'm really static with this alternative treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have any kind of information is good for coronavirus.
Okay.
we know, and for example, teas or how some vegetable for improve your immune system. So these don't have any kind of effects on the coronavirus.
Okay.
So, and one problem is when you get some of these alternative treatments, you can feel good for 1 day or 2 days, but you don't attack the virus because you have some medicine for attack the virus. So it's necessary go to the hospital if you feel bad, right? And you if you have the test positive.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty static with this alternative treatment. So it's because if you feel good when we start these alternative treatments, oh, I'm feel good today.
Yeah.
I'm go outside, go to the metro, and what's happening in the metro?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can put in your hands in your nose and hold off for not going down in the metro,
Ugh.
and the probability to infect more people is increase. So
Sure. Yeah. No, and I mean it just sounds like there's so many different factors, just the basic precautions, washing your hands, don't touch your face. As I know you can't see me right now, but I constantly touch my face, but I have at least been at home.
thank you.
I'm here with my dogs that people behind me can see. But that's a really good point, and that's a question that I was actually going to ask. Is that Frankenstein 2102 from Instagram asked if there was a placebo effect with some of these things, and I think we can all convince ourselves that we're sicker than we are or more healthy. Um, and one of the big questions, and this is really speculative, feel free to answer or not. JJ Piccione too. Oh, they say, once this is all over, do you think we'll see numbers anywhere that are close to the numbers in the 1918 flu? Looking back historically, is it just way too early to ask these questions, or what are people thinking right now?
I think it's gonna be happen the same with SARS.
Mm-hmm.
So when it is in the end, so and talking about the history of this virus, the first time this virus was published in 2013, but and we don't have a lot of persons get infected, so the enterprise doesn't, and we don't take care about that. So probably maybe the SARS, and I hope we get some vaccine for coronavirus. And I saw some information from China start to test coronavirus in animals. Israel start to test in animals. So, and right now the China's probability is to start with the hospital stuff, with nurses, with medical doctors, if they have the security of after the animal results. And I think it's early to to see the result, but I think it happens with the same of SARS.
Okay. Okay.
Probably happens the same.
All right.
And well, what do we have to do is of the virus as we do with flu. Because, for example, if we compare the Brazilian virus was detected here with from China or from Italy, they have 2 or 3 SNPs different from China and for
And
Italy.
just for our
So,
audience,
and
SNPs
we
are
know.
basically, there are tiny little differences in the virus that can change how it passes or how it survives.
Thank you. I forgot we talking the all the persons. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, no. I mean,
So
it gives me something to do, so it's all good.
so and this is survival I have to do every winter season.
Uh-huh.
So because you have some the mutation on the virus, and to make the new vaccine every year happens the same with flu.
Right.
This is, I think it's probably it depends. For China, make an amazing job of building hospitals and make the test of all the persons. So, and probably in China, in 3 or 4 months, you get some vaccines. Here in Brazil, I think in 6 or 7 months we have the vaccine. I don't know if United States. I saw one interview from United States government, so they start to make some progress on the vaccine. So
Yeah.
probably, and the expectation happened the same with flu or same will happen with SARS.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good that we have these kind of examples beforehand, and I mean, that's a huge shout out to just scientists in general. That is all the people who are doing the stuff in between these outbreaks, working on vaccines, understanding that basic biology and, those little mutations in a virus that make all the difference. So I want to wrap up with this one last question that I like to ask all of my guests, which is, what are you Googling right now? What are you looking for? What are you trying to learn about this virus that you're just really interested in?
I said with one of my colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have these epidemics, it's good, for example, for class. So this pandemic in me, and 1 minute, Susan.
This is the fun of a live show.
Yeah. So and as I continue, as I said with colleagues, it's too interesting to understand what epidemiology happens. So and to teaching the students and the public and to society and to understand what's happened with disease.
Yeah.
And I'm Googling right now to understand what's happened.
Yeah.
So I follow one great doctor here in Brazil, virologist, Atila Yamarino. So he's doing a great job with, I can pass you his Instagram, but
Yeah.
sorry in Portuguese. I follow his suggestion, so to understand what's happened in China, what's happened in Italy, what's happening here in Brazil, and what's the progress with the vaccine, and what's the proportion of the persons get infected is necessary to go to the hospital. And what the most important thing you have to learn on this, how many persons have the symptoms, get the positive for coronavirus. So this is the one. I have 1,000 persons make the test, but just 5% had the positive test for coronavirus. So it just another 95% is just a flu. So this is important to show for the society. So this is what I'm following on the coronavirus.
I just love it. It really does make me feel so much better, and hopefully it makes the audience feel good that whenever I've been talking to the experts, they're just as curious. We all want to know what's going on here. And speaking of that, people might want to follow up with what's going on with you. So we have your tags there at the bottom. What do you talk about on Instagram? I think it's your research group, right? That's actually running the Instagram.
Yeah, it's our research group, our Y-Care research group here in the School of Public Health of the University of São Paulo and the Medical School of the University of São Paulo. Our main field is about the cardiovascular health in children and adolescents.
Okay.
And why is lifestyle behavior associated with this, with the cardiovascular health, and how it is environmental factors affect the lifestyle behavior and the health in children and adolescents.
That's so cool. Well, Augusto, thank you so much. This was fantastic. I learned a lot. I think our audience did. We had a bunch more questions rolling in. So thank you. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Maybe get out and enjoy a little bit of your summer weather. It's fairly warm here, but thank you again so much.
Thank you for having me, Suzanne. And if you need some more information, mail me or you can invite me to talking again.
I would love to do that. I am sure we will be talking again. All right. Well, that is it for us today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Ask Me. I'm a Scientist. We're covering mostly COVID this week, maybe a little bit of next week. But if you think of other experts I should talk to about COVID, about coronavirus, about pretty much anything, this is super fun. Let me know who I should be talking to. Please remember to like and subscribe and all the other stuff I'm supposed to tell you, just so it gives me an idea. Should I keep doing this? Are you interested? What can we be doing next? So until next time, hang tight, do your research, and I will talk to you very, very, very soon. Okay, make sure this ends.